I am the president and CEO of Economic Mobility Pathways, also known as Empath. And I am joined by the illustrious Colette Phillips, who is an amazing entrepreneur. She's the founder of Colette Phillips Communications. She also brings people together through Get Connected. And we are sitting here in the Leica Gallery in Back Bay. And so we want to thank everyone for tuning in for what we hope will be a great conversation. So I want to turn it over to you, Colette, and give you a chance to say a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll just get into a great conversation with each other.
Well,
and I want to start by thanking you. I want to
Thank
thank you not just for sitting here with me during this fireside chat. I want to thank you for all of your support, but most importantly for your leadership in our city of Boston. Our city is truly a better city because of the work that you have done to bring people together. I just want to start with that gratitude.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you for the work you have done in terms of elevating and amplifying and lifting up people and making us feel all so proud. So I so appreciate that. And I'm delighted to be here as somebody who is a pioneer and a first and starting the first successful communications firm in Boston. And really, I am all about mission-driven and purposeful work.
Yes.
You know, I think at the end of the day, the work you do should feed your soul. And I, very early in my career, made the decision when I started my business that I would never do work for a company that I didn't believe in, didn't share the same values. So I refused to work for tobacco companies. I refused to work for companies that were involved in South Africa. And at the time when you are just a woman of color, a Black woman, an immigrant in the nascent stage of your company, that's a very significant decision to make. But I felt I had to be true to me. And that's one of the things I love about you, Kim. You are authentic and real and not about doing the popular thing, but doing the right thing.
Yes, which is not always easy.
Yes. So let's go right into not doing the right thing, which is not easy. You are a person of first.
Yes.
We both are. And you were among the first to be a part of the transition in busing in Boston, which was not an easy time. I came here at age 17, just after busing started to go to college, and it was ugly.
Yes.
And you also, it's never easy. You're also the first person of color, first woman to be mayor of Boston. And you know, when you are a ceiling shatterer and a barrier breaker, you are under a magnifying glass.
Yes.
So tell me about how that has impacted you being a first and how it has, from the busing days, how has that sort of impacted the work you do now and your life?
Yes, well, what a great question, Colette. You know, for me, all of the experiences that I've had growing up in the city of Boston, I carry with me. And I think they have informed my thought process as I think about policy, as I think about how we can make this city more inclusive, a city that truly represents everyone in every neighborhood. And so being a first, after almost 200 years of having only white men lead our city, there's a lot of responsibility. So you feel the weight of being the first. There was so much work to do. And it wasn't just being the first and breaking the barrier, but it was the times that we were in terms of the pandemic and all of the work that had to be done to ensure the safety of our residents and that we could reopen our city and help people, you know, manage through what has been a very difficult time. I'm reminded of a quote from another historic first, U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins. I think soon after she was elected as Suffolk County DA, I remember her saying, when you break glass ceilings, you're bound to get cut.
Yes.
And that has
yes,
certainly
yes.
also been the experience when you think of the naysayers, when you think of those who don't share your vision for equity and justice, who will throw darts at you, who will, reminded me of those bottles and sticks that were thrown at me as a child on that school bus when I was bused during the Garrity court order for desegregation in Boston. So it can be rough, but the most important thing I would say, in being the first is making sure you're not the last. And
Yes.
so, being able to pass the baton over to another woman and to a woman of color was very important for our city and a proud moment for me. Even though I had to turn over the reins to the city that I love and for a job that I love, to be able to do so for another woman of color, I think was just so powerful in our city.
Well, that is something that I want to reference, because I thought that you were so classy, so dignified, and with such grace. There was certainly a love fest between you and Mayor Wu. There was obviously mutual respect, mutual love, and it's never easy when you have a sense of disappointment, because I think and believe very strongly that as the mayor of Boston, you absolutely met the moment. You really did.
Thank you.
And the things you were able to do in that short time frame, focusing on equitable reopening of our city, and the fact that you took the best of what the previous mayor was involved with, including the all-inclusive campaign that you added another, funding to ensure that this campaign helped to change the image of Boston. And I want to thank you for that as someone who was an integral part of that campaign. And what you said and what I just said about how you handled was a great way of modeling how we should lead.
Yes.
I don't think men lead that way. Look at what happened with our national politics, where one president refused to accept the other.
Right.
You were so gracious in the way you dealt with Mayor Wu, and it says something about how women lead differently. So tell me about
Absolutely.
that.
I do believe that women lead differently, and that our world would be much better when we recognize women in leadership. And so I am grateful for all that you do to lift up women, and so many other organizations here in our city that are lifting up women, and to see so many women making strides, whether we're talking about running for public office and winning races, whether we're talking about leading nonprofits or corporations. It is great to see that. Now, we obviously have a lot more work to do on that front, but it is so important because we do bring, I think, a different lens to this work. And it's a lens of understanding the importance of belonging and inclusivity. It's a lens of really trying to solve problems. Women have always been great problem solvers. We've had to be. And then the last thing that I would say, I think about women in leadership, particularly women of color in leadership. It's wonderful for us to recognize that now, but women of color have always been in leadership. They have been leaders in their communities. They have been leaders in their church. They have been leaders in their homes. So even when that leadership isn't recognized, they were still leaders. It's great that more and more are being recognized.
I couldn't agree with you more. I always said, would we have had a Dr. King had we not had the women at the Montgomery
Exactly.
boycott who actually organized the
Exactly.
transportation. The women were the ones who organized the
Absolutely.
food,
The
wrote,
flyers,
typed the letters,
all of it.
all of it. And these women, I mean, and you're so right, women, and I would say in particular, Black women, you know, women of all backgrounds, but in particular, Black women have always been at the epicenter of change.
Yes.
You know, whether it was Harriet Tubman, or it was Ida B. Wells, or Madam C.J. Walker, or right here, Melnea Cass, Elma Lewis, Ruth Batson, Ellen Jackson.
Absolutely. Jane
Jane
McGuire.
McGuire.
And the list goes
The
on.
list goes on.
Yes.
Kim Janey, you know,
Colette Phillips.
you know, it has been just amazing to watch. And this is a moment right here in this country and in this city for women of color.
Yes.
When we look at, there are so many women in leadership and Black women in leadership. You have the president of Wellesley College, the president of Simmons. You have
Smith.
the president of Smith, the president of Cambridge College, Roxbury Community College,
Exactly.
Jackie Jenkins Scott, and we have a vice president, Harvard.
Harvard has a Black woman president.
The vice president of the United States. What I have observed, and I'm sure we have, as women in particular, but women of color have moved up the ranks, we have seen a backlash.
Yes.
We have seen a tremendous, we have people referring to the younger members of Congress, telling them they should go back to where they come from. We have seen this total rise in like misogyny and racism. And I'm wondering what you think about that. How can we as women sort of push back on this moment, and what's your vision for what we could be doing?
Well, you know, I think we have to continue to push through the noise. The backlash is not new.
Yes.
This country, our history, there has always been backlash. So, you know, after Reconstruction, we saw Jim Crow.
Yes.
After the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, we saw, you know, Black women and Black men being targeted with negative stereotypes. We saw after the election of President Obama, we saw what happened next. So there's always been this kind of push and pull, this 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or sometimes it feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But we have to continue to push forward, cut through the noise, and stay focused on the work. I think one of the things that women bring is that kind of laser-like focused on the work itself. And so we just have to keep doing that work. Well, and I'd love to tell you about some of the work that I am doing now.
Well, I was about to get into that because I was saying it, I don't think, you know, I've always believed, and I know you are a woman of faith, that disappointments does not mean, sometimes disappointment become God's appointment.
Yep, exactly.
And I have learned that when things don't go the way I would like, that it's because God has a greater plan for me. And I believe that it's not coincidental that you are at this moment, at a time when we are seeing a tremendous food insecurity, housing for women. We see the tremendous wealth gap. Women are always the ones that carry the burden, taking care of the kids. And I think the work that you do and Empath does is so critical to beginning to address some of those. So I would love you to talk about that. Particularly, you serve women of color majority, and I would love for you to talk about Empath and how the work that you are engaged now. And this is not new work.
No,
You
not
know,
at
people
all.
think, oh, it's not new. This is the work you love. It's your ministry.
Yes, yes. No,
So,
absolutely. You opened up talking about mission driven and
yes.
work that really fulfilled your purpose. And that is, I am blessed that I get to do that every single day. The titles change, whether
Yes.
mayor of Boston, whether president and CEO of Empath, but the work continues. And the focus on issues that are important to people who are living in poverty, people who, through no fault of their own, find themselves born into a zip code where
Yes.
there's high poverty. And so how do we help people climb the economic ladder? The issues of food insecurity, housing insecurity are not new issues for me either. So growing up in this city, I experienced both of those things. And in fact, it was this organization, Empath, that really helped me on my path
Wow.
as a young teen. So I am just grateful now for this full circle moment to now lead this organization. We're almost 200 years old.
Yeah.
And so while some folks, and I know we have a lot of viewers
right.
and a lot of fans of Empath, and some folks, Empath might be new for you. So
That's
we're
right.
almost 200 years old. Two amazing legacy organizations merged. And so while some folks haven't heard of Empath, they are very much familiar
Right.
with the Women's Educational Industrial Union
Yes.
and Crittenton, who merged. So, you know, our work really is, I think, unique because we combine direct service delivery with research and advocacy and this amazing national network, our exchange. And so I want to shout out all the exchange members who are definitely on this Zoom today. And the great thing about this work and having this exchange is it's not just the work that we're doing locally in Boston that is having a great impact.
But
We're able to
nationally.
kind of share this out nationally.
That's
And our
fabulous.
partners are seeing amazing success too through mobility mentoring, which is a coaching model that really centers the individual and their own goals and desires for their life and their families. And so we kind of use this bridge of self-sufficiency. You see the bridge
Right.
here
Yes.
and our logo here. And there are pillars on the bridge that look at housing, that look at career, that look at finance, that look at your health and well-being. And so wherever you are on this bridge, you will identify the things that you would like to accomplish in your own life. And our coaches, our mentors will help you strategize, help you remove barriers, help you support your own dream. But again, it's your own goals. And we have seen incredible success with our participants. We have seen our flagship program, CFO. We have seen folks double, even triple their incomes.
Wow.
They increase their savings. They are able to reduce their debt. They secure better high-paying jobs with a real trajectory in terms of career advancement. And so it's incredible to see that kind of success locally and to see it also through our network, through the exchange.
Well, I am going to throw out a challenge to all of the people who have tuned in. You have, and I'm on the host committee for a big event coming up in May. So for those of us who can write a check, I want everybody to be generous. Tell us about that event and how can more women and male allies get involved to support the May 11th. Is it 11th? May 11th event. Yes. Yes.
In Boston, we will be celebrating our organization and the amazing work, and certainly a big shout out to my staff. We have an incredible team, folks at Impact doing incredible work. So May 11th, folks can support. This is the Empower celebration that we will be celebrating on May 11th. We invite people to write checks. Now, when I served an elected office, there was a maximum of $1,000. There is no maximum. So I do want to encourage folks to give generously because this work
really matters. It does. It does.
We are are changing the lives of individuals who are either living in our shelters or not. And so this is really important work. So folks who are looking to make that difference, this is an easy way to come to the event, have a wonderful time, but also to, as you say, invest in the work.
Well, one of the ways that I think I personally and Get Connected can be helpful to you, because you are one of our most impactful Black women academy, and we had over 100 women. So let's tap those women.
Yes.
You and I should co-write a letter to all of our colleagues saying, this is an event not to be missed, and here's your opportunity to step up and help other women. So let's make that happen. And I want to talk about lessons learned for you, and what are some of those basic principles that have governed your life from the lessons you have learned?
Yes, I think those governing principles have really been equity, justice, joy, and love.
Yes.
Those have been the things that I have sought on my own journey. Those are the things that I think we need to kind of lean in on heavy.
Yes.
As mayor of Boston, I did a joy agenda.
Yes, you
as
did.
Part of our strategy to reopen the city and to rebuild relationships, to reconnect residents. You know, we had been spending, months, years, isolated from each other. And when we see what is happening, our school children now, the social skills that you build when you're with your friends.
Yes.
They are lacking now. And it's not just our children, it's adults. You see the road rage. And so, centering joy as a policy change, was big for our city, and it really helped us. And I think we need more of that. And then I guess gratitude. Gratitude is
absolutely.
So
yes.
To kind of just be grounded in gratitude and appreciate the people, the teams. Can you guys hear me now? Are folks having a hard time hearing me?
Are they hearing us?
Is this better? Let me try to pin it closer.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, I can hear you too. Okay, is that better? All right.
Good. Yes, good.
Okay.
Is it on? Oops. Oh, wait, I don't even see it.
I told you I knock things over, and I wanted to know if this thing back here was secure.
That's okay.
This is Nikki. Nikki is our vice president. Institutional advancement. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Good.
Can you guys hear me now? Lovely. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but this is the world we live in.
Exactly.
We've all had to adapt to Zoom or whatever virtual platform you're on.
Yes.
We have technical difficulties, but we roll with the punches, and here we are, we're back at it. So hopefully you can hear us and see us okay.
Tell me about, because I know that, when I think of you as fierce, fearless, and phenomenal.
Oh.
And I know that mentorship has played a big role in your life.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your mentors and mentorship and the importance of that.
Well, mentorship is incredibly important. We have mentors at Empath who are working with participants around their own goals. And, I know and learned early on that we all need mentors. I had an incredible mentor in my 20s. It was one of my professors. She was amazing. Her name is Lisa Sullivan. I say her name often because she has poured so much in me. She's no longer with us. She is with the ancestors, but clearly she has made such an important difference, not just with me, but with so many that she touched. But all throughout my life, I've had mentors. Even now I have mentors and folks, and I count you as one of them,
Thank
Colette.
you.
I have folks that I care deeply about, who offer amazing advice, who help me think through big, tough problems, who are very supportive, who will hold me accountable to the things that I hope to do. So it's incredibly important. We all talk about the importance of friendships and having your girlfriends. That's important, but you also need mentors. So I would strongly encourage folks to find your own group of mentors, whether one-on-one, or maybe you'll pull together a peer accountability group or a personal board of directors, or an amazing dream team like
You had. I was going to talk.
that I still
You have. That's true. We're still on that. I was going to mention that and say one of the things that I would love you to talk about, because your dream team is not only gender diverse, but it's racially diverse. And that to me is really a model that we should leverage male allies and white allies when you're a person of color. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Representation is so important. You've heard many talk about the importance when it comes to electing women and people of color. And I just think that, it is incredibly important.
I wonder if the batteries are a little, no?
Yeah, this is not working.
Yeah, you wanna, is mine working? You guys can hear.
So I can maybe talk louder, but this isn't working. So it's just really important. You can learn from everyone is the point. And I would say even beyond race or culture or gender, thinking of age as well, being able to learn from young people, having some younger mentors, certainly learning from those who have paved the way is important. So it's really important.
Yes, and I'm also, I know that you are actually going to be part of a number of events. So May 11th is for us to support the mayor and her, an empath. You have two other big events coming up where two mayors of color are being honored. You and Mayor Wu by the Boston Arts Academy Foundation, and that's coming up in March.
Yes, that is March 16th, and I want to shout out the Boston Arts Academy Foundation for Danella Clark for her leadership in recognizing both Mayor Wu and myself. But more than that, it's really the work that they do every single day to ensure that children in this city have the opportunity to attend an amazing state-of-the-art performing arts school. I was there for the groundbreaking. I was there for signing the beam. I was there for the ribbon cutting. Just incredible, incredible school. So I'm grateful for that. The Boston Club, I'm just humbled and honored to receive an award from the Boston Club, an organization whose mission it is to advance women's leadership. So that is wonderful. And since I'm talking about events, I will kind of look into the future. We do have our May 11th event this year, but next year we will be celebrating 200 years. And so we're really excited about all of the events that we have scheduled for next year as well.
So thank you. And I'm going to start calling you and Mayor Wu the sisters from another mister. Because both of you are so much the twin sisters from, same coin, same commitment. And I love that she has built on many of the things that you began and is now advancing those and carrying them forward. So tell me about how that makes you feel.
That is wonderful, and less so about me and feeling good about your own legacy, but really thinking about the city of Boston. and creating better opportunities for our young people, making sure that everyone can thrive. That's the work that we focus on at Empath. Too many folks are in survival mode. They're in crisis constantly. And it's hard when you're in constant crisis to kind of focus on your goals or to do the work that's necessary to really kind of lift yourself up. And so I am thrilled to see her build upon important work that will move our city forward. She obviously is her own person and she is the mayor, and so she can do other things as well. But, you know, I'm certainly grateful that some of the work that we put in place is continuing in the city.
Especially around economic opportunity, because I know one of the things that you did, and as an entrepreneur, I really appreciated that, is that you broke up contracts.
Yes.
So that, you know, a company that's a smaller company can apply for a contract for 100,000 or 250,000 and be able to really build capacity in a real way. So I love the fact that the mayor is building on that and have expounded and expanded it.
Yeah.
So, and that starts with you, and you did that
Yep.
within the first 8 weeks of being on board.
Yep.
So it says to me, when you're intentional and deliberate, good things happen.
Yep. And we actually, both Michelle and I worked on the council together on those very issues. So that was certainly a priority for both of us.
So tell me, talking about that, what are your future plans? And is politics off the table, or talk to me?
Well,
talk to us.
So as I've said, it's a wonderful job. My second best job was being mayor of the city. My first best job was being mom to my amazing daughter. Shout out to my daughter, Kamisha, and my beautiful grandchildren. And I am really proud of the work that we did together. My team, I have an incredible team. In fact, your chief of staff is on my team. But, you know, I do believe that life is defined in seasons. And I am really enjoying the season that I am in now. I don't know if I would run again for office, but I do know that I'm loving this work that I'm doing now. And so that's where my focus is. That's where my energy is. And as I said earlier, you can stay focused on the work that is mission driven, that fulfills your purpose, regardless of what the title is. And so I won't rule it out. But right now I'm enjoying the season that I'm in.
That's good, because I think you have a lot of play and good things still left in you. So I am glad that you have left that on the table. There are possibilities, you know, endless. So tell us about, you know, what advice would you give to younger, well, first of all, I should ask you, what advice would you have given your younger self, having learned many lessons at this stage of your life? And then what advice would you give other young women who are thinking about taking on challenges of leadership?
You know, I think what I would tell my younger self, and what I hope all of us learn to do a better job at, and not just when we're young, but all through our lives, is really kind of shutting out the noise. The noise is telling you that you're not good enough, that you're not pretty enough, particularly if you're a Black girl. Like you're not. And you are amazing. And so it is important for folks to kind of focus on what they know to be true here. I think advice is certainly just to do the work. To do the work, don't kind of chase the titles or the glory, stay focused on the work and be that servant leader. So anyone who is seeking to be a leader, you do that through service. I believe that's the way you should approach it. You do it through service. You become a servant leader. So that's what I would say.
Is there anything that anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to sort of expound on or mention, or has anybody said anything in the chat that we should, that we should look at?
You know, there is so much when we think about the future, not only of our city, but of our Commonwealth and our country. I want to encourage folks to do what you can where you are. Like, you don't need fancy degrees, you don't have to have fancy titles, you don't have to have a lot of money to do this work. You just have to stay focused. I remember being at the Embrace unveiling about a month ago, and we have the amazing Imari Harris Jeffries right next to my portrait here, who is leading Embrace Boston. And at this, and if folks don't know, for folks who are viewing in from other parts of the country, Embrace was a way to honor the love of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King here in the city of Boston. And so there was an unveiling of this amazing, I think, this incredible piece of art. I loved it. And during that time, we had the King family with us. And I remember the granddaughter. She is the only granddaughter of Martin and Coretta, and she was just phenomenal. And so when I think about leadership, there is no age. You know, we often want to tell young people they're the leaders of tomorrow. No, you're leading right now. And there's no reason why you can't lead right now. And so she was just phenomenal. And what she called for was more love. She, in fact, dubbed it Love 360 and called for more love. And so I think that is truly what we do need in this world, as she said, just to quote her. And as we think about, you know, next year, which is a presidential election in our country, when we think about where we are in terms of so many issues, economic issues, people are hurting. This pandemic has only made things worse. It has further divided folks. It has exacerbated pre-existing inequities that were already here. And so we've got a lot of work to do to come back together and to focus on what really matters. I think, sadly, our national politics have kind of veered off the tracks and are not focusing on what the American people want, which is what we all want, good jobs, good, families, good opportunities to raise our families, a nice house, good education. It's not a mystery. And it's not that some people want these things and others don't. People often frame questions, well, what does the Black community like this? It's not a mystery, right? We all want a safe, wonderful, thriving community. And so how we get there, though, I think, is to do this work locally. So there's lots of opportunities for folks to volunteer to nonprofit. If people are interested in learning more ways of getting involved at Empath, you can certainly visit our website, empathways.org. I look forward to working with anyone who is focused on advancing women, focused on supporting and strengthening families, making sure that we are lifting up those who have been marginalized, who have fallen through the cracks. And let me also say that we love to support and advance men as well. I don't want anyone viewing to think that this is just a love fest for women, but we know from the data that what the data tells us is that we have huge gaps when it comes to women. When we think about salaries, we know we have a lot of work to do to make sure that women can advance in their careers and that they are paid what they deserve to be paid. And we see huge gaps in terms of what men are paid and what women are paid. And when you kind of put in the lens of race, we see even bigger divides. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we are lifting up folks who have been left and pushed aside. But we want a vibrant community for all of us. to be in. So I'm going to hand this back to you.
Thank you very much. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in to hear this fierce, fearless, phenomenal woman. And I am so just honored to have been a part of this conversation. Is there anything you need me to say, Nikki? Oh,
in the chat.
okay. All right. We have a few questions from the chat. Technology, exactly. One of the question is, who do you serve in your programs in Boston?
Oh, great question. Great question. So locally, we serve close to 1,500 people a year, many of whom live in our shelter. We're one of the largest family emergency shelters in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Hastings House in Brighton, folks might be familiar, is our largest congregate shelter site. But you don't have to be in shelter to be engaged in one of our programs. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing, working with the city, working with the Boston Housing Authority, our AMP Up program. So folks who are living in public housing, if they're living in BHA housing, have the opportunity to enroll in Empath's programs. We have the CFO program that I talked about earlier. And so we're doing a lot of work locally to help folks climb the economic ladder. But as I shared earlier, the exchange also is a way to kind of get mobility mentoring out through other communities all across our country. We even have a few partners across the ocean, but most of the work is focused in the continental US. And so I'm just thrilled that so many folks are really seeking new and innovative ways to serve populations. You know, I think back to my childhood, and, you know, it was during my childhood that the war on poverty was issued or declared by a president. And here we are more than 50 years later with even bigger divides when it comes to wealth and incomes in our country. And so we didn't get it right, and we need to kind of focus our energies. And so we welcome folks who are interested, who are on the Zoom. Maybe you're not connected, maybe you're leading a nonprofit, maybe you do work with a group of individuals who could benefit from our coaching model. And so we welcome you to find out more by visiting our website at empathways.org. Got to keep plugging that website.
Somebody did ask about who are the members in the exchange?
You know, we have exchange members all across the country. They are largely human service nonprofits, but there are some government agencies that are part of the work as well. People who are working directly with individuals to support them. What is usually typically called case management. We don't use that language here because people are not cases to be managed, but we're really helping people climb the economic ladder. But if you're working directly with individuals, this is a model that could work for you. So we have partners all over. I'm going to shout out some of our folks in San Antonio. A couple of months back, I was able to visit them. And so FSA and MHM there in San Antonio are doing incredible work. And they have a randomized controlled trial that I'm so excited to learn from. They are piloting cash assistance. And so they're looking at 4 groups of individuals. What happens if we give cash assistance, a little extra help? We know cash is the most important thing that poor people need to kind of, it is king. So what happens if we give folks that extra cash that they may need? What happens if we give them the coaching through mobility mentoring? What happens if we give them cash and coaching? And what happens if they receive neither of those? And so we will have a better sense of our work and the impact when this study is complete. But we have partners across the ocean in the Netherlands, Australia, Absolutely. Who are taking this method of mobility mentoring and applying it with the individuals that they are working with in their own communities, and they too are seeing amazing results.
I love it. One more question, and that is that someone asked how to navigate change when leading.
You know, change is hard. Change is hard. It really is. People are often resistant to change, even change that will make things better, because it's just hard. And so I encourage us, all of us, to kind of get beyond that discomfort that we feel when it comes to change. I think about, status quo and what the status quo is doing to us. It is hurting us. And so I was very clear as mayor of Boston before I became mayor and after I left office that, this pandemic has upended our world. The goal is not to go back to that. We don't want to go back to the way things were. I don't. Go back to this normal that people are craving. This was a normal that leads to huge gaps, whether we're talking about Black maternal health, whether we're talking about a life expectancy gap right here in Boston, from Grove Hall to Symphony Hall, 30 years, 30 years life expectancy gap. It's mass incarceration, it's schools that don't work, it's a racial wealth gap in the city of Boston of $250,000. There are racial wealth gaps in other cities all across our nation. If we're serious about doing this work and creating cities and really our country that is truly for all of us, and living out what we say we're about as a nation, living up to what is in our Constitution and what we say we believe in democracy, then we have to make space at the table. And if you're not invited to the table, I know our dear, dear Shirley Chisholm said, bring a folding chair. I've been very clear though, we're in a different time. If you don't get a seat at that table, we've got to be about the business of building our own tables. And so I think that is the moment we're in, that we really have to ensure that we all have a place at the table. And the way to do that is to build a big enough table for all of us, because there is room. This notion that there's not enough room, that's a false narrative that we cannot perpetuate. There is enough. And we need to make sure that we all have opportunity and access.
Well, Mayor, I love what you just said. Two things that I want to leave people with. And one is, let's focus not on the deficit of inclusion, equity, and diversity, because I think what you said about people resistant to change, that's what we are seeing now. People recognizing that the demographic shifts that's taking place in this country is going to mean that people of color will become the new majority. And that is scary to people who have always been in the majority. It's like, what does that mean for me as a person who is not a person of color? And let's focus on the benefits of that, because there have been studies that show when you have diversity, everybody thrives. It's like the rising waves lifts all boats. And we have to think of that. And the other thing I want to leave people with is what you said about love. It all begins and ends with love. And to me, what was so sad was to learn and to read about a group of people that would have a day devoted to hate. National Hate Day. These are people who, it's Marianne Williamson, the spiritual leader, says that when people are acting out like that, is a call for love.
It's because of hurt.
Yes, hurt people hurt people. Exactly. And so I really want to commend you for reminding us of that message of Dr. King's granddaughter about love. And I think the late Burt Bacharach and in the
our song, Dionne Warwick's song. You know, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. So we do need more love. And I want to say that you are a leader who leads from the heart. And one of my heroes, Nelson Mandela, says that a compassionate heart and a good head is a formidable combination, and you have both. So thank you for that. And we're so glad that you guys tuned in today. I hope you enjoyed this. We enjoyed conversing with each other, and thank you so much.